Welcome. So glad you could be here at the mat with me today. We're going to start standing. And something we're going to be sideways on our mat. And something you might want to consider is angling your mat so that when you're trying to look at the screen, look at me, that you're sort of angled and not having to crank your neck. We want it to be easy on your body. All right, so just setting your feet in what I think of as kind of an athletic stance. So you're nicely supported, a little wide, kind of able to bend your knees and sink in a little bit. And we're just going to start stretching that right arm up. And I want you to keep reaching and kind of shrug. I don't often ask you to do that. Shrug your shoulder up by your ear. And now draw the shoulder blade down. Reaching up. Nice inhale, exhaling down. Do that a few more times. Start to bring the breath into it. Nice, slow, deep, and wide. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. If you're stuffy, you can always use the mouth instead. And sometimes it just feels good to open your mouth and kind of, ah. I want you to take it a little further now when you're drawing down and pull down like you're grabbing something with your hand above your head and drawing down firmly, hoping you can feel that side body engaging. Inhaling, is there more? Exhaling. Last time this side. And then just let the arms go. You might pause a moment and notice if you feel kind of an enlivenment on that right side. Other side, taking the left arm up and holding up here with your hand for a moment as you kind of play with shrugging, bringing that shoulder blade as high up the body as you can and drawing down and shrugging, and drawing down. Notice if these two sides are different, depending on what you've been doing and what your dominant side is, and so on. As you're ready, start making a more active drawing down. Anchor the shoulder head, the shoulder blade, and pull that imaginary heavy thing that's resisting you down. So one of my goals in this movement is to have us activate that lat muscle. And if you're not sure if that's happening, you could take your opposite hand kind of right below the armpit area, and you should feel this muscle kind of light up. And we're trying to do it without using the neck. One more. Nice. And release. We're going to do something similar coming in front. And I want you to reach your arms in front and actually spread your shoulder blades away from each other. So you're kind of hunching like a little cat back. Good. And then letting the arms come down, squeeze the shoulder blades together as tightly as you can. Stay soft in the neck. Good. Let's go again. Inhaling, spread those shoulder blades away from one another. And exhaling, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Of course, as we go, a couple more, adding any little organic movements. If you feel like you want to kind of wiggle a little left and right as you're reaching forward. One more time. Is there more? Asking of the breath, getting nice, deep, full exchanges of inhale and exhale. And relax. Nice. We're going to bring the hands around in our yoga mudra, intertwining the fingers and trying to draw down. Remember, if you can't get your arms completely straight, if you can grab a scarf or a sock or something and let the hands come apart a little bit. But inviting you, if you can, to kind of engage and release a little bit. So I'm letting my shoulder heads rotate forward again a little bit, and then activating down and back. Last time, and an opportunity to send those hands further up off of the butt and see if you can deepen that stretch. As you breathe into it, where do you feel it? Some of us might get it right up into the upper chest. It might be more in the front of the shoulders. It's all yummy. And release. Nice. We're going to take those legs wider now, so still sideways on the mat and a straddle. Ideally, the feet are parallel, really anchoring through the inner line of the foot so that as you go side to side, you're not kind of wiggling your feet. They should be really anchored like a little tree frog. And as you're going side to side, you might keep the hands up on the hips. You could also bring them down to the thighs or down to the floor. Notice when you're going to the side, if that pushing leg is really pushing. You don't want to just sort of be sliding side to side. There's a really active engagement, lighting up all those muscles that, many days we don't ever take our feet wider than it takes to walk. So this is so helpful. And if you're able to just hold to one side and take a few breaths, try to reach your hand away from that leg. So I've got my left leg straight and I'm going to reach my left hand as far away from it as I can so that the long side of the body can receive the breath. Remember, sighing breaths are marvelous. They really help kind of reset our nervous system, take us out of any stress that we've been holding. And slowly journeying to the other side. Again, if being on the floor is too much, then you might just be supporting on one thigh. Breathing, reaching, always finding that root and push with the straightening leg. Oh. And slowly coming back to center. We're going to be doing a little bit of cow-cat kind of back motion. And if this is awkward on the floor, come up to thighs. Inhaling, draw the heart forward. Exhaling and rounding, straightening the legs perhaps, if that feels good on that cat back motion. Please do a few more and use this time to really anchor into your breath. Turn your gaze in towards it. Add your ujjayi throat contraction if you'd like. Asking of each part of the breath, is there more to be drawn in or emptied? Last one there. Awesome. Walk those feet in a little bit. Drop the butt and root and rise up. Big glute squeeze, send the heart up. Watching as those prayer hands come together and settle at your heart space. Pause here and inviting you to open your eyes in our drishti gaze. And so you're setting it in a soft kind of daydream-like focus as you now observe deep breath, inhaling and exhaling. So even though we're really activating a deep exchange of breath using our abdominal muscles, we want the face to be soft, maybe a soft inward smile at your own good heart. We're going to step to the front of the mat. Find our mountain pose. Feet are parallel. Jet airplane arms, finding that little squeeze again for those lat muscles. And as you're ready, inhaling, sweep up. Again, you can always send the heart up or keep the head neutral. Exhaling, bring that left foot up, standing crane. Hold here with me, anchoring into breath, even though you might be wobbling. So that's the great challenge, is finding that steady breath, but then keeping it. And of course, we are all normal humans with monkey minds. We'll lose our attention and we'll come back to it. Slow journey. I want you to see how slowly you can step back into your crescent lunge or warrior one. Really feel the muscles that are working to set you there. Nice. And express yourself. Maybe your arms are out in what I think of as a hug emoji. And you might take them up. If you take them up at all, just check what's happening with those shoulders and that they're in the anchored down position. Beautiful. Let's bend that left knee a little and straighten. Nice. Return the hands to the hips and return to your mountain. Jet airplane arms. Inviting you to scan the body and see if that left side feels a little different, that left thigh that worked. Inhale, root and rise, sweep up. Squeeze those glutes, raise the heart. Exhaling, prayer hands, right knee lifts. Hold for a few breaths. I often have to tell my neck to relax. It wants to try and control the balancing for the body, which doesn't work, and of course leaves you with a tight neck. Nice deep breath here. Good. Really ignite that inner thigh of your standing leg. Use that to root down and slow as you can, reaching back for your crescent lunge. That right leg is extending, slowly bending through the left and land. Good. Express yourself through the arms, wherever you'd like to be, and play with that right knee, dipping and back. So if the balance part of this is really hard, then you might want to play with the dipping of the knee with the hands on the hips, so you've got that extra stability. This can also be done hanging onto a kitchen counter, a wall. It's a really nice one to have support in. And return to your mountain nice and slow. Make sure those hip bones are straight forward. Whew, lovely. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, we're going to step sideways on our mat again, what we call five-pointed star. So my head's the fifth point. My arms are reaching out from the heart, shoulder heads anchored. I'm going to ask you to hold with me here for about 3 breaths, watching the breath come and go. This pose itself is a wonderful exercise for our mood. They've shown that it actually lifts us up, shifts us into a different gear. If you add a soft smile, it helps. Good. And we're going to be moving into our warrior 2 lunges. So you might have hands on hips to start with. Take that right foot 90 degrees. And we want to keep scooching it as far forward as we can until the heel is directly under the knee. And we've got a really nice anchoring with the back foot. I'm going to ask you to attend also to external thigh rotation. So if this isn't something you've really checked out before, one way to look is your thigh bone straight forward versus angled? Another way is to just engage your glutes and you'll feel that rotation happen. It makes you super stable. So if you would now reach your right arm out in front of you, we're going to just do a back bend or side bend and return to that starting position. So inhale, reaching up and back, and exhale, return like you're presenting a platter in front of you. Or if your arm gets tired, let it go. We'll do that 3 more times. Inhaling. As you're reaching up and back with the hand, please send the ribs forward. You can always take the head and look downward by your mat if your neck is feeling stress. Couple more. Inhaling, sense where the breath is touching you. Exhale, platter hand. This, by the way, right hand is our offering hand. So we can think about energetically offering up gifts of our practice, perhaps, wishes for the world or someone that we love. Last one. And this time I'm going to ask you to take your elbow all the way to your thigh. Check those shoulder heads are anchored. And now my right waist is pressing towards my left. So it's a different shape than we were just in, opposite. And try reaching beyond your head towards the wall in front of you. I often call this lateral stretch. And we want to see how long we can get in that side body. Check, please, that your arm is actually straightening. If you're not sure, kind of look at it and give it a karate chop, because I want that tricep to fire up. Oh, good. One more moment here, just a little adjustment. Go ahead and rotate your chest towards the floor and then stack the shoulder again. And do that a couple of times. Make sure the right butt cheek is still squeezing towards the left edge of the mat. Lovely. And now coming right up and returning to that straddle. Whew. We're going to bend the knees and fold. Nice break for the low back. Again, make this organic, right? There's just so many impulses in the body. It knows what it wants, and the more we can listen, the better. And inhale, root and rise up. Exhaling, prayer hands. Watching one full breath move in your body. This moment, this body, this breath. And let's rotate that left foot. Scooching until you sense that you are at your edge. A really nice, strong, powerful pose, but with some muscular intensity. Rotate that thighs externally, so left butt cheek. And I'm going to extend my left palm now. We think of this as the receiving hand. So it's a kind of a nice intention that you're open to receive. Abundance, support, joy. And then as you're ready, play with me. Inhale, sweeping up. Make sure that the ribs are pressing forward towards the left side. And exhale, returning platter hand. So I'm asking you to really tap into the subtlety of what's happening as you come into a side bend and then neutral it. Good. One more. And slowly left elbow to thigh. Good. Stack those shoulders. Make sure the glutes are still engaging so the body's really flat, like between two panes of glass. And then root and reach through that right arm. Again, maybe karate chop, whatever you got to do to make sure that you are really activating. You might also imagine there's a button right beyond your right hand, your middle finger, that you really want to push on. Deep breath here, slow, deep and wide. Check that left waistline is pressing up towards the right. And then again, another moment here as we just do that little pulse, rotating your chest a little towards the floor and stacking the shoulders again, chest facing the wall. Really tune in to this kind of massage, this enlivenment that you're giving your side body. It's a lot of core work too, if you're doing it right. Good. One more. And let's come on up. One more time. Straddle feet, bend the knees, and fold. You might take a little side to side. Again, just check and see what's needed. One last act here in our straddle. This is a really fun place to do a spinal twist, but we want our legs to stay really steady. If you're able to get them straight and have your hand on the floor, great. If not, you can bend them. Just make sure that they're not doing what I call the Elvis knee, that they're staying really solid. Plant the left hand and inhale, rotate open through the right. Exhaling on your breath, of course, return, let your head hang. Plant the right hand, inhaling, rotating open through the left. Is there more? Exhaling, return, fold. We'll do twice more each side, following your breath, letting it stretch that amazing twist you're in. Is there more? Marvelous. Walk those feet in so you can come up safely. Drop the butt, root and rise. Big glute squeeze forward. And exhaling, prayer hands. Close your eyes. Tune in. What do you notice? Has anything shifted in your body since you began your practice? I notice some increase in heart rate, some heat. And that's exciting to me because, really all we've been doing is kind of range of motion, right? Not super powerful stuff by a lot of standards, but we've been using a lot of our muscle groups and you can just feel that heat. It's so awesome. We're going to come to hands and knees. You might want to roll out ankles, by the way, after they've been at that angle for a while. So we're coming into a table pose, but we're going to be practicing actually something I call bear. And so it's just, again, a very powerful pose. Before we go there, find that intelligent hand position, middle finger forward, other fingers wide, and we're really anchoring in the base of the thumb and the index finger. And then see if you can, again, play with our shrug of the shoulders and our anchoring. And we want to go with anchoring and feel that broadness from the ear to the shoulders. Curl the toes under, and we're not pressing to downward facing dog. We're just keeping the knees deeply bent on purpose. In fact, take those feet wide if you've got a little more room on your mat. You can spread the hands a little too. Good. And I want you to see what it feels like to activate those shoulder heads down the back and then to press your chest towards that space between your feet. Good. Now inhale, come forward a little bit. So you're almost bringing your shoulders above your hands, not quite. And exhale, press back. Good. Let's do that a couple more times. One more time. Good. And while you're here now, really play like we do, basically going into your downward facing dog, pedaling, pressing one heel towards the floor, then the other. If you've kept your feet wide, it can create a really nice kind of side to side motion too. And when you feel complete, we're going to release, we're going to roll out our wrists a moment just to love them up. And then we're going to come into something that I think you yogis, in fact, helped decide. We're calling it half puppy. But it's a really cool resistance stretch that can really help evolve issues through the shoulder and down into the lat and rib cage, intercostals, change the way we breathe, the whole gig. So you're going to come down onto your right forearm and bring it a little towards the center of the mat, elbow directly below the shoulder. I'm going to stay on my left hand for support. You can do kind of however you want. I just find this easiest. And we're going to traction. So I'd like you to anchor your right forearm down towards the mat, like you're pushing into it, and then you're drawing back like you want to bring your arm towards your knee, but don't move it. You're just engaging. Take a deep inhale. Try not to use your neck. This is going to be more difficult for some of us who habitually do. Exhale. Slowly draw your butt back towards your heels. You're still tractioning. You're still engaged. Notice what's there. You might kind of relax into it right at the end. Come on back. Inhale. Traction. Anchor. And slowly draw the butt back. The slower you go, the better. Good. Let's do one more this side. Inhale. Traction. Exhaling, pressing back. Ideally, you might even do, 10 or 12 of these on your own at a given time. It can be pretty incredible. Switching, we'll place our left forearm and we want it kind of a little towards the center of the mat, not exactly center, just a little inward. Right hand's there for support, shoulder heads anchor. Inhale, tractioning, exhaling, slowly sliding the butt back. And returning to neutral, deep in-breath. So important that we get that full inhalation. Tells the body we're safe, we're whole, that we're doing this for fun. Yeah, so notice if one side's more intense. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn about the body and notice where it might be holding some scar tissue or just extreme tension. Last time here on this side, tractioning, and release. Marvelous. We're going to come all the way to our bellies. So however you'd like to get there. Resting on the forehead, let's find our jet airplane today. Anchor the pelvis, fingertips are tented out a little bit off of the hips, but I want my upper arms to be anchoring into the ribs. That's going to make it easier for me to light up the tricep. And again, like we did when we were standing, kind of karate chops so you know the elbows are straight instead of bent. Then as you're ready, inhale, extend, and exhale, return. We're going to be here for, half a dozen breaths or so. And so you have an opportunity to kind of progress and find your version. Does it feel good to release the hands reaching for the wall behind you? Does it feel good to release the legs also reaching for the wall? They're not trying to lift to the ceiling. If you feel a bunch of like back kind of gripping doing that, re-anchor. Couple more. And if you can, in your last one, hold an opportunity to briefly swim. And you might be sweeping one arm forward, taking it out to the side like a kind of a half windmill. If that bothers your shoulders, then instead you would want to just kind of slide straight ahead. But I find that that swim to the outside motion is amazing for the shoulders. All right, plant those hands, press back, child's pose. So we'll take our knees wide, butt towards heels. If this pose doesn't work for your knees, then just hang out in ragdoll on your feet. Tune into breath here. Let the breath move into the belly, but also into the back body that was just so contracted and engaged. Good. We're going to do another nice opposite shape coming onto our back for bridge pose. One of the things that we try to do in our yoga practice is always make opposites. So it teaches all the partnering muscle groups how to hold us together evenly, right? Front body, back body, and so on. So we're going to open up that front body now. We want to anchor down through the upper arms. Work your shoulder heads in towards each other underneath you. Like, again, you're making a little bit of a shoulder blade sandwich. And have the feet, maybe no more than a block width apart, kind of 4 to 6 inches. And as you're ready, slowly press the hips up. And slow is always good because we actually work muscles differently, but we also get to notice things along the way. So come on down again. Nice big inhale. Exhale, slowly press up and see if you can feel that your thighs are engaging, or are you kind of losing contact? Are you losing the parallel of the thighs? If so, you might just imagine that you're squeezing a block. Good. Let's do that one more time. Nice long inhale. Exhale, press up. Good. Now hold, and invitation to add your leg extensions. Or if you haven't done those recently and your back is a little sore, then try just releasing one foot at a time in what I call kind of a foot hover. Frankly, if your back is really sore, you would want to stay with your hips a little lower, and then you might even just shift your weight from foot to foot. So if the lift or the hover's too much, do that. Otherwise, extend, pressing through one heel, noticing if that hip drops, reignite it, breathing. Try not to use your neck. Nice ujjayi breath, that throat contraction makes that whooshing sound of breath. It's one of my favorite ways to get back into my core. Make sure you complete. So if you started with right, that you end with left. And come on down. Knees to belly. Again, right? Nice opposite shape. Oh, yeah, that feels so good. And this pose is actually just of itself really great decompression for the spine. So it's a lovely one to go into. And then please take a deep breath and try and bring it into the belly, which is hard because it's being squished against your thighs probably, but also try to bring it into the back against the floor. And we're going to take it into spinal twist. We're going to be doing 2 spinal twists today. Well, we already done some, but we're going to do this one and one more. So if it feels good to do so, you're just going to take the legs to the left in embryo pose. I know some people prefer single knee down twist, in which case you just plant your left leg straight and cross the right leg over, right? So you've got those options there. If you're feeling any low back instability or pain, you're going to always want to have the knees bent and stacked because that's going to create the most stability. Reaching out with that back arm. Oh, and again, explore, right? Make this organic. Sweeping that arm above the head and back down. And then pause for a few deep breaths and witness the action of breath on your body. We want the body to move. We want it to be like an object kind of bobbing on waves. Let that inhale get deep, deep. Is there more? Hmm. And then when you are ready, other side. So you might just lift the left or the right leg open, what we call opening the book, and then the left leg follows, closing the book. And that'll put you into embryo on your right side, or again, if you prefer, you're extending that right leg down, heel flexed. Keeping the feet flexed in general helps create a lot of stability in that low body. And again, that's so great for the spine. Breathing, exploring with that back arm. And then find your place of best stretch and really tune in deeply to the breath here, moving the body. Bring inhale deeply past the resistance of the twist. And slowly on back to center. Good. We're going to come up to seated for a seated spinal twist. And I'm going to be turning to face you. You can stay on your mat the way that you were, but I want you to be able to see the leg positioning that I'm offering. And this is kind of the classic seated spinal twist, but if you prefer, that's not comfortable, you could certainly be hanging out with your cross legs. But we're going to extend the left leg, heel firmly flexed, have the right foot planted inside of the left leg. And again, if this is too much, then at any point just switch. I'm going to take my right hand down and behind, and I want it just supported because the whole goal during any of these twists is to maintain completely a straight spine. So I don't want to be hunched and leaning back. Shoulder heads anchor. And I'm going to ask you for a moment to just breathe here. And I want you to imagine that your first action is trying to press a clutch on with your right foot. So your left foot, excuse me. You're pushing forward and you should feel your left hip kind of come forward. You're set now. Let's inhale, root and rise. And as you're ready, grab your right knee with your left hand for just a little support as you decide to rotate through the spine. Now, I'm going to keep my head in alignment with my chest. I'm not trying to look out over my shoulder at this point. Inhale, give it room. Exhale, think about that clutch you're pressing on, and think about drawing your lower abdominal muscles towards your spine. This is incredible ab work if you focus your attention there. Good, let's do that again. Inhale, give it room. You might be coming out of your twist. Exhale, belly to spine, push on that clutch, rotate. And notice maybe you can comfortably hook your elbow around the right knee. Some people might find it comfortable to take the elbow to the outside of that right thigh. I can make that position, but I find I really can't breathe or do much interesting there. So I go back to the elbow hook here. Inhaling, give it room. Exhaling, push that clutch on, belly towards spine. You can even engage your perineum, get the pelvic floor involved. Huge part of your core strength. And we're going to do about 3 more here, inviting you to progressively rotate through the chest, letting the head follow. And on your very last one, inviting you to actually take the head and the eyes all the way to the right. Turn your eyes to the right in your eye sockets and release. Keep the legs as they are. We're going to do just a brief counter twist. So I just kind of took my right arm inside my right knee and rotated to the left. This feels really good. All right, other side. Right leg extended, heel flexed. Left foot inside of that leg, heel is planted, whatever angle you can get going here. And I'm going to take my left arm out behind, shoulder heads anchor, and I'm going to check that I'm nice and straight in the spine. Exhaling, push on the clutch, begin wringing the rag. Catch yourself if you're looking out over your shoulder a bunch. Bring that head back into alignment and freeze it. Don't let it do anything more than what the chest is doing. Big belly breath. Exhaling, push on the clutch. Deep core engagement, including pelvic floor. And let's do about 3 more here. Soft tongue, just the tip of it connecting. Notice if you're grimacing or sandwiching your tongue against the roof of the mouth. And on your very last one, big inhale, exhale, invitation to rotate all the way, looking behind you and turning your eyes to the left in the eye sockets. And come on back, brief counter stretch. So I'm leaning on my right hand, using my left arm inside my knee to rotate to the right. Marvelous. Whew. Roll out those ankles. It can take a lot to keep flexed that long. But again, awesome engagement. All right, coming down to your back once more. Go ahead and bring those knees into belly. We're coming into our robot. If you're totally familiar with this and you've got your version, just go, right? And enjoy. Make sure that you take a rest whenever you're feeling things gripping, because we want engagement, not gripping. So better to take a break. So checking in here, I'm going to guide you to, first of all, take an inhale. And then on your exhale, imagine there's something under your low back that you're literally trying to squish. That's the engagement that I want to maintain during robot. So it's really important that I'm not doing more than I can with my limbs and losing that contact. When you're ready, flex the feet again, slide the knees forward until they're directly above the hips, 90-degree angle at the knees. Good. Now, for fun, if you've never done this, take your hands on your low belly and just keep them there as an awareness tool as you slowly take one heel towards the floor. Maybe it actually lightly touches down. Maybe it just goes part way. And then return. Inhale. Exhale, root. Slowly take the other heel. And what I'm noticing as I have my hands on my belly here is just, it's helping me be more alert and keep particularly these muscles that are kind of lowest to supporting the spine. They're kind of right between the hip bones there. I want to train them to be really strong. So continuing, always inhale neutral, exhaling, slowly taking one heel. If you want the arms straight up, that's your neutral position. If you want to add them, is opposite arm reaching for the wall behind you as the other heel moves towards the floor. Now, this is where it can get really sketchy for people because they start moving the other limbs. They bring the knee towards their chest to compensate. It's automatic. You don't even know you're doing it unless you have practiced it a lot or you're really watching yourself. So as you're ready, finding the level that you can safely work and do good work. And let's do a few more rounds. So maybe you want to take a little break. I really want our cores to be strong because then we don't tend to overuse our neck and shoulders. We use the right part of our body to do whatever we're trying to do, snow shovel or you name it. So nice long inhale. Exhale, power down, boom. And as you're ready, opposite heel and opposite arm, or maybe you're just using the legs. Inhaling, is there more? The breath is key. Again, it tells the body, I'm safe, I am well, I am whole. And the body actually trusts that it's safe when you're breathing because you're in attention, right? You're not just mindlessly thinking about something else and tossing your body through space. That's where we tend to get injured. And notice if you're moving the limbs that should be static, try to hold them. And make sure you complete each side. And release. Whew. We're going to briefly come into, you got it, a counter stretch bridge pose. When you're ready, raise those hips. And maybe you want to just stay with hands on hips or facing the sky. Or perhaps you want to intertwine in Yoga Mudra. If you're doing that, try to keep the palms close and then press the fists towards the heels. Again, otherwise you could even just have the arms straight on the floor. Let's take one more very thoughtful breath, sending the knees towards the wall in front of you, the heart up and back. Big belly breath. And then slowly, slowly down. Nice. We're going to come into pigeon stretch. So those of you who like this back body version pigeon alternate, right ankle onto left thigh, hug the right knee, and you're going to rotate a little left, and that's your stretch. Those of you who'd like a classic pigeon stretch, you can come on to hands and knees, table pose, and just bring that right knee forward. And recently we practiced the other alternate version that's a little gentler on knees, where you can come out onto your right butt cheek in this case and bring that shin bone parallel to the front of the mat, flexing the foot and kind of drawing towards the calf and the center of the mat to get your stretch. So it's really about finding where you can get that great like massage, as I think of it, into your glute without any stress on your knees. So it's really personal, and for me it changes from day to day, so it's great to have a bunch of different versions in your toolbox. I'm going to invite you in a little bit of breath of fire here. So if you can have your head supported, great. If not, no worries, just don't tighten up the neck. Take a nice long inhale and then a rapid in and out through the nose. And really using that exhale to firmly draw the belly towards the spine. A few more. And then a long inhale. Exhale through the mouth. And just get still and quiet in your pose a moment. And when you are ready to move to the other side, make that journey. If you're in this classic pigeon pose, you might want to come up to what we call kind of a waking pigeon, drawing the heart forward. Can feel really nice before releasing. So if you're on your back, left ankle crosses onto right thigh. Otherwise, here facing the mat, I'm bringing left knee behind the left hand. And settling in, again, we're looking for some intensity. I want to feel that stretch right in that left glute, kind of specifically piriformis. You might, if you want more intensity, you might try taking your back foot and use it to pull your hips a little further back. Again, if that shows up in your knee joint, don't do it. Settle the head if you can. And remember, you can make any left to right movements kind of organic. Just find your right zone. And let's add our little breath of fire. Rapid in and out through the nose. Notice if this is too much, makes you lightheaded or something, just breathe normally. Otherwise, a few more, and make the action happen at your abdomen. And then a long inhale, exhale through the mouth. Beautiful. Tune in for a few quiet, still moments in this shape. And as you are ready, release. Again, you might come up to a little waking pigeon where the hips are anchored, heart drawing forward. And slowly release. Sometimes it feels really good to like kick those legs and rotate them. If you're on your back, you could do a little windshield wiper. But we're all going to be joining here facing the mat for our beloved forearm plank. So if you're on your knees, you can just come down straight from there, or you can come from the belly, whatever you'd like. And so from your knees, you would just step back one leg at a time onto the ball of the foot. Really important that the thighs are really activating so those knees are straight. If you come back with a bent leg, you're going to feel very weak. Notice you can just drop right away to your knees as well. And I want you to think, please, again, about that lower abdomen. We really woke up in our robot, and I'm hoping you can kind of reference it without touching it in this pose because you can't, you don't have hands awake. But I'm talking about this band right between the hip bones. I want you to draw that towards your spine. Maybe you found that in our spinal twist as well. And see if you can relax the head and take a really big belly breath. So the low belly's activated, but there's lots of room for breath higher up. One more. And come on out. Turn your head to the side, relax. You might windshield wiper the feet side to side, or sometimes it feels good to just rock the hips. Invitation to come into another round of our forearm plank. This time I'm going to offer a sidearm plank. So if you want to just hang out in the regular that you've been doing, if that felt like plenty, fabulous. I'm going to do it on my forearms. So I'm going to come to a full forearm plank. So on my feet, then I'm simply going to come onto the right edge of my foot, and then my left is going to stack, and that's going to allow me to open my body to the side wall in this sidearm plank. So if you prefer to do this on your palm, you can, but this is a lot easier on the wrist, which is nice. So another way to get there, if you found that awkward, is just to come onto your right hip and on that right forearm, and then to press up from there. Either way, it's that right waistline, right? You've really been practicing today how to wake up these side bodies. Boom, get that thing reaching up towards the heavens. You should feel your lat muscle too. Can you breathe here? That's always the fun question. And maybe you can lift that top leg. If that bothers your back, don't do it. And when you're ready, come on out and let's go to the other side. I don't want you to be lopsided. So again, you could just be playing with regular forearm plank on your knees, coming in and out as you need to. The key with all these poses, the fun of going to something more intense, is can you breathe there? So please check in with that this time now that you know the alignments. Come on up to your forearm plank. If you're doing side on plank, shift to your left foot, right foot stacks. Check that that left waistline is engaging up towards the right. And then you might release that right arm to the sky. Breathe. Sometimes we have a habit of bringing the hips out behind us. One way to counter that is really think about pressing your hips towards that wall in front of you. And maybe you lift that top leg. Keeping those feet flexed really helps. One more breath. And release. Child's pose. Bend those knees, take them up nice and wide, and settle. Tune in, notice your heart rate and what that created. If you're wanting to keep things higher, maybe you're in downward facing dog instead. And when you are ready to move on, we're going to be coming into a little warrior flow. And if you love doing more flow, you might want to come from downward dog with your right leg flying. Otherwise, we're going to be coming from the front of the mat in that standing crane we were doing earlier. So first, find your mountain stance. Feet maybe 4 to 6 inches apart. And remember, you can always add on different arm versions, just whatever your body wants today. Let it have its own dance. As you're ready, inhale, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands, left knee lifts, standing crane. One full breath. Soft drishti gaze. Long inhale, exhale, slowly extending back, crescent lunge, or if you prefer, warrior one. Inhale, express yourself. Again, make this organic, make it evolve with your breath. One more long inhale. Consider sending the ribs forward and then up in your back bend. Neutral the spine before moving into warrior two. Back foot plants 90 degrees. You were here earlier, right? So we know about that external thigh rotation. And again, so many ways to be here. You might be sending your gaze forward and back. You might be in platter hands. Check, please, that your head really is just floating above the spine, that you're not reaching, no striving. On a long inhale, straighten that front leg and reach up through that right arm. Hold. Counter reach down through the left arm and kind of rotate the palm towards your body so the shoulder head's anchoring down. I often look down as it's easier on the neck. And one more full breath. On your next exhale, slowly forward lateral stretch. Plant that right elbow. But again, we don't want to be leaning on it, right? Our waistline is beautifully engaging up towards the sky here. And you might reach that left arm beyond the head for that side body stretch. Maybe you liked before when we kind of angled the chest towards the floor and then stacked the shoulders. Maybe you're craving arm circles. Oh, that can feel so good. And we're going to step back to downward facing dog. If that doesn't work for you, then you'll step forward into forward fold and then do some standing hip pumping. We're just going to press back to downward dog and hold here, sending that gaze between the feet. I'm going to invite you to do that same bear movement. So you're going to bend the knees nice and deep, press the chest through that space between the feet, or like you want to. And inhale, come a little forward. Exhale, press. A couple more. Use that lower belly, draw into the spine. And walk those hands back to the feet, or maybe you want to jump the feet forward. And we're starting from the front of the mat again in our standing crane. Again, you could be doing this from downward dog, taking that left leg flying. Inhaling, root and rise. Exhaling, prayer hands, right knee lifts. Nice and soft in the neck, full breath here. One more long inhalation. Is there more? Exhaling, slow journey back. Good. Make sure you adjust so those hip bones are straight forward. And then again, find your version. If you're inclined towards the back bends, start with your attention on that back leg, that back heel. Push towards the wall behind you with the heel and the thigh. Then send the ribs forward and then up. And as you take a deep breath, there's a marvelous stretch in that low abdomen that you've been working so hard. Exhale, return to prayer hands before moving into your warrior two. Good. Finding your best version here again, making sure that the glutes are activated, sending the hips towards that right edge of the mat. Breath rising and settling in the pose. On a long inhale, straighten the front leg and reach up. Left hand, right arm counter reaches, shoulder head anchoring down and back. So here, even in this bend, we want to think again about lengthening. So we don't want to be reaching so far back that we're compressed in that back rib cage. Slowly forward lateral stretch, elbow to thigh, waistline reaching towards the sky. We're so strong when these side body muscles are doing their job. It's so cool. Again, maybe you want to kind of pulse, face the floor a little with your chest and then open. Maybe you're circling. And as you're ready, release, downward facing dog. Again, if that doesn't work great for you, then you're stepping forward, forward fold, ragdoll. And you can just hang in ragdoll, or if your spine needs a little pumping, then doing this pulsing, press the hips forward and release. Or again, you might be doing our pulsing in bear, those of you who went to dog. Then I'm going to ask you to just notice what, if anything, your body is really hungering for. You know, we all have our favorite poses. We also have our just things that are bubble up that our body will say, oh, God, you know, it would feel really great right now that I'm warm, now that I'm whatever. Or maybe there's something we already did. So I want you to just take the next few moments and really tap into your breath and your body's intuition and see if you're inspired to repeat something that we've done, or to go into something that maybe you just didn't even think you could do, like crow pose. If you're doing something double-sided, make sure you kind of get going on the second side. We're going to be closing our physical part of our practice with tree pose, and then we'll be doing a little pranayama that I'm excited to share with you, a little breath work. Tree pose is really fun to me because it's a balancing pose, and that's one of the first places that we tend to give up our breath awareness, or deep breath. We tend to get kind of constricted, and we add all these other funny things like tightening the neck or the eyebrows, or again, the tongue sandwiching against the roof of the mouth. So we're going to use it to check in on those things, but also it's fun because there's so many ways to make it harder. So I'll offer some of those. Speaking of which, if you have a block, this can be kind of a fun way to make tree pose a little harder. You don't have to, of course, but if you want to make it harder, you can step up onto the block. It's funny because I don't think it's physically actually harder. I think it's the mental challenge of being further up off of the floor. So, you know, maybe as you continue out throughout the coming days, maybe you want to try this out on your dining room table or something, right? You've always got options. But before we do any version, I'd love to have us all look at our feet. Place your big toes together and then see if you can talk to the other toes and get them to lift and kind of spread out. And then hopefully you can kind of replant them on the mat, like little, again, I think of like little tree frog, little fingers. And then from there, I want us to squeeze the thighs. So it's like you're trying to create a tree trunk. And what you should feel is big ignition in the thigh muscles, but I also want to ask you to add that perineum engagement. So it's like you're trying to cut off a flow of urine and you feel that extra level of support come from the pelvic floor. And that's also a huge part of what supports your low back, is that pelvic floor. So we want to keep that engaged. But now we're going to take one foot and put it into kickstand. So I'm rotating my right knee out to the right, coming onto the ball of the right foot. And I want to then reestablish that inner thigh squeeze because a lot of times we'll end up kind of cocking the hip. Once you feel stable, perhaps you can bring the foot up onto the calf. Check it out. How's that work in your body? Notice that I've got my toes flared out, what I call yoga toes. And that's very powerful because now my foot, instead of being a floppy thing, is very active, very alert, and so are my leg muscles. So I want to keep squeezing towards the center line. Once I feel that I've got that stability, then I'm going to play with my tree limbs. We've had a lot of focus in this practice about where our shoulder heads are and so on. And so find a place that feels easeful and long through the neck. You can have the arms much lower if you like. Attend to the breath. Are you holding it? Does it kind of stop when you start to lose your balance and come back? If this is feeling really pretty easy, you're not experiencing those challenges, you might close your eyes. You might come up onto the block. You could try out both. Another way to challenge the balance is just movement in that upper body. So if you pretend that you're a tree in a great storm, that's going to challenge all the proprioception and stability down below. And when you feel ready to close out this side, try to do it with some control. If you totally fall out, that's just fine. And then sometimes it feels pretty good to like roll the ankles, shake out that standing leg, and we'll come into the other side. Again, place the feet, spread the toes, create that tree trunk squeeze of thigh muscles, place the left foot in kickstand, re-adhere that squeeze, pelvic floor, lots of alertness through our lower core here. And maybe you're bringing the foot up onto the calf area. You never want it on the knee because we don't want you pushing your knee. So you want to press that right leg back towards the center line, then add your arms, soft drishti gaze on a point somewhere in front of you. Unless you're wanting to make this more challenging, in which case you might close the eyes and then turn the gaze up and in, third eye point. Maybe you're like a tree in the storm on purpose or not. I hope that if you're wobbling and falling, that you're amused, entertained. Notice instead if you're irritated with yourself or there's a lot of mental judgment, yakety yak going on. Being on the yoga mat's profound because we have so much more time to notice our thoughts, to witness them. And the truth is, whatever shows up on the mat is probably how we are off the mat too. So if we're kind of perfectionistic, etc., that will show up elsewhere, not just here. Are you breathing? Are you breathing? And slow journey. Come on out. Good. Give it a shake. We're going to be coming to seated for our pranayama practice. Once we are done with that, I'll be inviting anyone who wants to come onto the back body and use the block or a cushion underneath the pelvis under the hips. So if you've got that, you'll want to have that handy. And so when you're seated, it's really, really valuable to make sure that your knees are no higher than your hips. So we want that nice kind of straight line where I can be upright through the spine. If you feel like they're kind of up high and you're kind of hunching, that's where you'd be better off just sitting on an ottoman or getting a higher bolster or something like that. So I'm grabbing a piece of Kleenex so I can just give a clear out, make sure there's nothing in there in my way. And then I'm also taking a little sniff of this Olbas oil. It's OLBAS, and it's just a blend of like eucalyptus, peppermint, clove, cajeput, a number of things. But it's really good for opening the sinus passages. It's also marvelous, particularly in the winter when, we get stuck inside and the air is so stagnant. So something like this or this product would be marvelous. I'm going to actually put a little bit in my palm. So if you've got something like that, an essential oil that's kind of good for opening things up, you can just put it right in the palm. So we're going to be doing something called Nadi Shodhana, Nadi, N-A-D-I. And the Nadi, actually, the word itself basically refers to tube. And the idea that our whole body is made up of tubes, which it is, right? Veins and blood vessels, and even our roots of our teeth and our hair and bones, that we're tubes. And specifically, when we're doing this Nadi Shodhana, this breath, it's a balancing of the two lobes of the brain, is what we're hoping to achieve. But we're doing that by controlling the movement of breath between the left and the right. And so people do this differently. If the hand position I'm about to show you is awkward, you can just pinch your right and left nostril alternatingly with your thumb and your index finger. Okay. But for a lot of us, it's more comfortable to kind of get, I haven't done this in a while. I'm trying to remember how to do it. That's so funny. Yeah. So the traditional way it's done is you would take your index finger and middle finger and you'd actually place it kind of on your forehead between the eyebrows, and that you would then alternatingly squeeze with your thumb and your pinky and ring finger, like so. I find it awkward to place the fingers on the forehead, so I just keep them straight up, and then you just sort of flip a little bit as you're trying to make that adjustment. Okay. So we'll just do a few rounds. And if you like this is a really neat one to play with. It's very meditative because you ideally are focusing on the breath. If you're really stuffy, then you have to focus on that too. And I'll give you a couple little tips as we go. But I'm going to ask you to, first of all, just close the right nostril. And as you're ready, take an inhale through the left nostril. When that's complete, switch, close the left nostril, and exhale out the right. Keep your hand like it is so that you now inhale up the right nostril, same one. Switch the hand, exhaling out the left. So as we continue, you inhale and you then switch the hand to exhale. You maintain the hand as you inhale and you switch the hand to exhale. So hoping that makes sense. You're only moving the hand when you're about to exhale, and that will allow it to happen pretty simply. So right away, you might begin to notice where you have resistance in the sinuses and the nasal passages, and there's a temptation to like suck the breath to get it quickly past. And instead, I encourage you to practice some patience, some observation, and if it's just too stuffy, open the mouth a little bit so that you're also sipping a little breath through the mouth as you do this. Or you can also reduce the active plug on the nostril so that it's not completely cutting off breath. One of the great gifts of Nadi Shodhana is being able to observe that gap or pause. So you've got the inhale as it rises, and then there's a moment where it pauses before the exhale descends. Is there more? Is there more? Find those last whispers of breath. Notice if your mind wanders. Bring it on back to this breath attention, pranayama practice. We'll do a few more, and then I'll help you close it out. And the next time that you are exhaling, just release the hand. Let the hand settle in the legs. Close the eyes and notice. Perhaps you can breathe a little clearer through both nostrils than when we started. Notice if that was stressful, like if you found yourself fighting, trying to get more breath through. And again, just know that there might be other ways that you apply energy like that in life. But also know that if this was the first or only second time you've done this, it's going to be just more distracting mechanically. Once you've got it down, it can be such a relaxing, meditative process. And I think many people I know are really searching for like which tool will help me anchor mentally when I'm just overrun by my own negative chatter. Maybe there's some specific event, or maybe it's just everything, right? So we want to find these tools that can bring us more into that peaceful part of ourselves. So when you are complete, if you would like to do the block under the pelvis, great. If you're really loving being in your seated meditation, then stay there. If you're laying down, you are laying down, pressing your hips off the floor like you do in bridge, and placing the block underneath the sacral triangle. And that's right at the top of the crack of the butt. It should feel good. If you feel any pinching or anything, you want to come off. And once there, you can play with either keeping your knees bent or draping the legs long. So you're just, I think of it like being like a piece of taffy draped over the block. And when you feel complete with that stretch, you'll find again, your closing shape. Ideally, yoga practice itself is preparation for meditation. So as I close our group practice here with the singing bowl, please enjoy the vibration of it. If you want to add your own om to it, please do that. But feel free to just drift off into a meditation, or maybe you feel so energized and inspired at the end of practice, you want to go journal or do something creative. But it's really fun to consider, what do we want to do with all the gifts that we've cultivated on the mat today? Is there any particular powerful way that you can use your personal gifts? Hmm. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om peace, peace, peace. Namaste.